Hello and welcome into Behind the Scoreboard podcast, first ever YouTube video. So today we're going to be doing a deep preview into the Mountain West Conference for the upcoming 2023 football season. We'll be doing a Hope or Nope segment, so one reason each team should and should not be optimistic for the upcoming season. We'll be going over the best games to watch for the upcoming year, and I'll be giving you the best bets and as well as my conference championship prediction. So let's dive on in. First up, for the Hope or Nope, big note here for the Mountain West is this is going to be the first year that they're actually getting rid of divisions for the conference championship game. So it's just the two best teams play no matter what. So let's start with Boise State. They're returning the freshman of the year at quarterback and 9 total starters on offense. So they're already going to have a lot of good chemistry as well as having the most important position, arguably, in all of sports figured out. On the other side of that is he was a freshman and they ranked 110th in passing last year. So that should improve. But their defense was also 6th in total yards per game last year in the country. 6th in the country in yards per game allowed. And they're losing 6 starters from that. So those guys are not going to be easy to replace. As for Air Force, this is one that's going to be true for, all the service academies or really any team that's run heavy and has a good defense. One of the new rules for NCAA this year is there's running clock after first downs outside of 2 minutes, or outside of 5 minutes. And Air Force has led the country in rushing for 3 straight years, and they have a good defense, and they have a very weak schedule. So don't be surprised if you see them kind of creep up in the college football playoff polls. I'm not saying they're gonna, be in the Final Four, or even Final Six, but you see those P5 teams, or I'm sorry, those Group of 5 teams with the weak schedules. They kind of creep their way up each week if they win more and more. So don't be surprised to see that start with Air Force this year as they make a deep run with the weak schedule. But their offense does not know which quarterback's going to be starting yet. And all 3 have different, but similar, because, they are the triple option, play style. So it is going to depend on which QB starts. You're going into camp, going to have a QB battle, which is always fun. So you don't know which quarterback's going to start, but you're going to be in good hands anyway because of your run offense and your defense with the running clock. Wyoming, a reason for hope. Their defense ranked in the top half of the country last year and returns 10 starters. Because their defense is returning so much production, they don't need a superstar QB, which leads me into my nope point for them, is they just need one that complete passes and not turn the ball over, which their returning quarterback Teasley last year didn't do. He only completed 52% of passes and had 10 touchdowns versus 9 interceptions. That's not really helping your defense out much, and that's what they're really going to need to do. Next up, we have Utah State. Last year, they had a 6-7 record, which was head coach Blake Anderson's first losing record as a head coach, excluding COVID year at Arkansas State, which, as a K-State fan, I don't want to talk about the COVID year, especially against Arkansas State. And his first year in the Mountain West in 2021, so the year after that, he did win the Mountain West at Utah State in his first year. Another good part from last year, their pass defense was 31st in the country last year. But even with a good passing defense, their defense still ranked 104th in the country in scoring, thanks to allowing just shy of 200 yards per game rushing. They'll need to remedy that while returning only 3 defensive starters. But remember, in the transfer portal era, not every loss is a bad one. So could be a little addition by subtraction on that. Next up, Colorado State. a reason for hope is 3 of the top 5 players projected in next year's draft out of the Mountain West Conference are from Colorado State. So they do have some studs in there. And they also, as a further out looking forward, they have the second highest recruiting class in the conference, just behind Boise State. So Norvell is getting it done on the recruiting trail in there. But you have to remember, he came in as an offensive guru, quarterback whisperer. He had Carson Strong at Nevada a couple years ago. They're still rebuilding, and he came in as this offensive guy. They didn't score more than 17 points in a game last year. In a game, they never scored more than 17 points. They still did win 3 games, but that's just going to have to improve if they want even a chance to go bowling this year. Next up, we have the University of New Mexico. They have a new quarterback transfer from UAB, Alabama, Birmingham. And it is going to be harder for the offense to actually be worse than last in the FBS again, as they were last year. So you're at the bottom. Only place to go is up. But still, on the Nope side, you do have the last place offense last year, total offense yards per game in FBS, and next to last in scoring. And this is going to be the 3rd straight year that they bring in an FBS transfer quarterback. Maybe 3rd time's the charm. Hopefully for their sake it is. Fresno State. I didn't think that they were truthfully going to be as good as they were last year. They lost their head coach. He is at the University of Washington. It looked for a minute like they were going to be losing their quarterback, Jake Haener, but he ended up withdrawing from the transfer portal to return to Fresno State. So as for and they overexceeded. They ended up winning the conference, beating Boise State in the conference championship game last year. They are losing this time for good all-conference quarterback Jake Haener, their top 3 receivers, and Jordan Mims, who had 1,300 rush yards last year. 1,300 rush yards. Dude was a stud. But if anybody can recover from that, your hope at Fresno State is Jeff Tedford. He averaged over 7 wins at Cal in 11 years, which is almost kind of unheard of for them, especially when you see the state of Cal's program now. And he has 3 10-win seasons at Fresno State, including one in his first year when he overtook a one-win team. And last year ended the year with 9 straight W's, including the conference championship against Boise State. Next up, we have San Diego State. Hope. They have been bowling for 13 straight seasons. Brady Hoke built the program once and left and came back and has it trending in the right direction still in his second tenure. They did lose a bit on defense that ranked 15th nationally in yards per game and top 20 scoring, but they did get some nice transfers to help shore up that defensive line, especially Okie State defensive tackle Samuela Tuihalamaka. I'm sorry if I butchered that, Tuihalamaka. On the downside for San Diego State, they ranked 107th, 116th, and 113th in scoring, passes, and yards per game, respectively. But not to say they can't turn it around, because they're going to need to if they want to contend for a conference title like they believe they can this year. San Jose State, next up on my list. Hope is they have arguably the best quarterback in the conference, and no doubt about it, they have the most accurate quarterback in the conference. Now, on the nope side is, due to no fault of your own, you have a tough schedule. You're playing the top 4 teams in the conference in preseason odds, and last year you went 1-4 on the road, but you were 6-0 at home. You also get from an overall non-conference schedule. You play at USC. You're versus Oregon State, who is not to be overlooked from a Power 5 perspective as they have been before. But for long term, on the downside, is they're in the Bay Area. They're in California, but they're recruiting at the same level as Wyoming. You should not be in California and be recruiting at the same level in Wyoming when you're in the same conference. And you're even below Air Force and Nevada. So Air Force and Nevada are out recruiting you. And that's not a good sign for the future of the program. UNLV, next up on the list. Their new coach, he had a 500 record with Missouri in the SEC. And their new offensive coordinators, Go-Go Offense, which is a version of the No Huddle. It should be a fun style to watch. I certainly am going to enjoy it. It seems like Vegas, you had the running Rebs in the 90s. You hopefully should get some excitement out of a Go-Go No Huddle offense. But the offense, even with the new coach, new offensive coordinator, may not be up to par because remember, they're still in a rebuild mode. No matter if you want to say it or not, they're in a rebuilding mode. So hamper your expectations for year one. Hawaii. They have electric transfer Eddie Osel Niketia. And that should be a nice tool for Timmy Chang's offense. So that another, should be fast-paced, fun, high-scoring offense. And that's going to be a fun transfer for Timmy to play with. Out of conference schedule for the Nope, though. Your slate features road games at Vandy and Oregon and a home game versus Stanford. And you don't have a great overall roster, and you're playing 3 Power 5 teams. And not to forget, Vandy hung 63 on you last year. You lost 63-10. And now you have to go on the road to Vanderbilt, who actually ended up having a decent season. They came back in November, but we'll cover them in another video. Finally, Nevada. Last year, they were blindsided by Jay Norvell leaving, and he ended up taking a lot of transfers with him to conference rival Colorado State. So last year, you get a pass. It's very understandable how bad they were, even though they started 2-0. Very nice, 2-0. And now you'll have a full off season. You get the Colorado transfer quarterback, Brendan Lewis, to hopefully come in and solidify the most important position. So that should be a reason to be optimistic. But long term, the reason Jay Norvell left was he was not getting support from Nevada, from the institution. So overall, looking forward, hopefully that was a wake-up call and you can get more help from them. And the quarterback transfer may not matter as much if the young, inexperienced offensive line does not hold up. So those are a reason for hope and no hope for every team in the Mountain West this year. Now we're going to get into games to watch. Starting off in week 0, you real sickos out there, college football. I am one of them. I love it. Week 0, Hawaii at Vanderbilt. I just kind of touched on this. Vandy last year embarrassed Hawaii 63-10. So if you want to kind of gauge how much you've improved year over year, you get it right out of the gate in week 0, late August. That's going to be fun. Maybe if the score is a little bit closer than a 53-point spread, then you know that you improved. Week 1. San Jose State at USC. This could turn into a shootout. Lincoln Riley's got USC rolling, and on the offensive side, not so much on the defensive side historically, Lincoln Riley, but a lot of those high-scoring offenses, coaches don't translate to defense as well. Part of that's just the nature of the game. Your offense is going to go fast, your defense is going to be right back out there. So this could turn into a shootout. So that could be a fun one to watch. San Jose State at USC, week 1. Also, week 1, Boise State at Washington. Washington got Fresno State's Kalen DeBoer. And they won 11 games last year. So Boise State going into Washington, they could stun not even just a Pac-12 contender. Washington has hopes that they could be in the playoff this year. So Boise State has a chance to really make an impact right out of the gate on the college football world this year. Staying in week 1, Texas Tech at Wyoming. You get a home game versus a Power 5 opponent. And you can win this game. I am high on Texas Tech. Don't get me wrong on that. But if Tyler Shuck comes out there and struggles, maybe they throw in a second quarterback. They're coming up to Wyoming. The air's a little bit thinner than in West Texas, even though it's all West Texas. I would hamper your expectations if you're Wyoming, but be happy if you keep it close. Maybe you pull off a stunner. Either way, it's going to be a fun one to watch when you anytime you get a Power 5 team to come into your building. Going up next to week 2, Colorado State at Colorado. Probably less about Colorado State, more about Colorado and Prime. But it should be really fun and interesting to see that program in general. But we'll get more into them on our Pac-12 preview. Staying in week 2, Oregon State at San Jose State. Again, just talked about Power 5 coming into your stadium. Oregon State, another one. The Pac-12 really deep this year. Any of these teams, Boise State in week 1, San Jose State in week 2, they could play spoiler for these teams. Not even, obviously not conference because they're not in the same conference, but nationally. These teams have playoff aspirations. San Jose State could pull off a stunner. Oregon State's a sleeper. Also, fun fact, Corvallis is the farthest west town in the contiguous 48 states of 50,000 or more. Fun fact. Staying in week 2, Boise State on the list again. UCF at Boise State. You have a new Power 5 team versus a team that deserves to be Power 5. This is going to be a litmus test. Should be a fun game. Last year's I enjoyed watching Boise State at UCF. So just going to be kind of a gauge to see where you're at versus a team that you could make the argument you should be in the conference over them in the Big 12. Moving on, week 3, Fresno State at Arizona State. You have a winnable game for a Mountain West contender early in the season against a Power 5 opponent. Now, it's not at home like some of the other Pac-12 games were for a Mountain West team. And you're also not playing a national contender. So Fresno State should be looking at this thinking, obviously you should always be looking at your games thinking you can win. But it is not unreasonable for Fresno State fans, rational fans, to think, hey, we could really win that game at Arizona State early in the season, beat a P5 team. Always good. Week 4, James Madison at Utah State. Loved James Madison last year. Exciting. Just made the jump up from FCS to FBS. So they were ineligible for the postseason, even though they deserved it. Utah State. This will be huge in determining bowl eligibility for Utah State. A game against a team you should, I'm not even going to say should beat, but hopefully you can beat. You're at home. They just made the jump up. They are a respectable team. They were very respectable in the FCS. And I do enjoy betting on their overs. Air Force at San Jose State, week 4. They both have this game followed up by a team that is top 4. Both of them have different opponents, obviously. The following week, that's top 4 in conference odds. So the loser of this game could be very quickly eliminated from the conference championship race. So that's going to be a fun one. Air Force at San Jose State, week 4. Now we're going to jump up a bit. Week 10. Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV at New Mexico. Each team's going to need this one for bowl contention. You're going to see a sense of urgency from both teams, scratching, clawing. You could make the argument more so for New Mexico that this is really important for them to kind of establish something. Week 12, Nevada at Colorado State. Nevada revenge game for Jay Norvell. Last year was a thriller. I remember sitting Friday night, hotel room, watching that when I was in Illinois, actually. That was an exciting walk-off field goal game. So you could see Nevada coming in and beating him for revenge. Week 13, Air Force at Boise State and Fresno State at San Diego State. The winner of these two games, very well, these two games could, I'm not even going to say could, will have massive implications for the Mountain West Conference Championship game. You could very possibly see the winner of these two games playing next week as a little impromptu playoff, if you will. Best bets. So these are DraftKings conference championship game odds to win. To win the conference championship. Odds to win the conference championship game. Boise State plus 175. Fresno State plus 380. Air Force plus 400. San Diego State plus 700. Wyoming plus 1200. San Jose State plus 1400. UNLV plus 1800. Utah State plus 2800. Colorado State plus 3500. Nevada plus 5500. Hawaii plus 15,000, and New Mexico plus 15,000. I would personally put my money on who I think will win is going to be Boise State or Air Force, which I'll get into the actual prediction in a moment. But if you want a value, somebody a little bit lower on the list that could come up and shock some people, San Jose State at plus 1,400. That's looking kind of good to me as a value pick. Not that they're my prediction, but if you want a value pick, I think San Jose State has as good of case as anybody in the conference. For the over-under wins, for the over, Boise State, 8.5. I like that over. Air Force, 8.5. Talked about it at the beginning. Easy schedule. They should be able to clear 8.5 easily. San Jose State, 5.5. I think that's another good over. I talked about them being my value pick. I did also talk about their schedule being a little bit tougher. So I do like that it is at 5.5. I think San Jose State's going to go bowling, which all you have to do this year to hit that 5.5, obviously. As for my value pick, I definitely think that's feasible for them. Fresno State, I like the under of 8 on Fresno State for conference win total, or not conference win total, but win totals total. Fresno State under 8. Utah State under 5.5. I think 5 would be a good one. You give that little extra juice. I'll take the under on that. Hawaii 3.5. Take the under on that one. I don't see them winning 4 games. It'd be a miracle, honestly, if they won 4 games. To Hawaii's point on their over-unders, don't forget Hawaii plays 13 games a season. They have that rule in there to let teams go out there because traveling there is a hassle, no matter how beautiful it is. The other team, San Diego State at 7. I think that's a good number. Wyoming, 6.5 is a good number. UNLV at 6. Colorado State at 4.5. Nevada at 4. New Mexico at 3.5. I think those are all good numbers. I could see either one of those going one way or another. As for the conference prediction, I think we are actually going to see a repeat of the Week 13 matchup of Air Force and Boise State. I think Boise State wins the regular season matchup. It is in Boise on that turf. I think Boise wins that. But I think Air Force is going to come back and win the rematch in the conference championship game. So, tell me, was I right? Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Tell me in the comments. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think.